Yeah, learning to cook and jumping in the kitchen and spending time cooking is the single greatest thing you can do for your athleticism now, but also your longevity and long-term health. And just a blink of the eye, and you're going from that 20-year-old college student to the mid 40 mom like me, which I can't believe. I still feel like I'm in my 20s sometimes, but it's gonna change your life. Cooking real food that you love, make sure it's something you enjoy and tastes delicious, is gonna improve your energy. It's gonna improve your sleep. A lot of like the wellness, there's all these wellness hacks that are like, do this to improve your sleep, do this to improve your muscle mass, do this to improve your mental health state. But if you honestly, if you're not cooking real food from scratch and eating nutrient dense foods, you're not going to be able to improve any of the other hacks.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Elyse Kopecky today on the Running Effect podcast. She has long been a dream guest of mine, and so this is a very full circle moment to sit down with her because I read her first ever cookbook that went on to become a New York Times bestseller in 6th grade, I want to say, and it profoundly had an impact on how I view nutrition, and it also helped me to get in the kitchen and learn how to cook, which has been transformational, not just in my athletics, but also in my life. And so we sit down with Elyse and break down the last 10 to 11 years of writing, of cooking, of creating products, of creating information that allows her followers and you listeners here today to take your running in your life to the next level through food and how we view and how we eat it. I love this conversation. If you guys enjoy it, share it with a friend, give us a 5-star review, and give us a follow on the podcast so you don't miss more conversations like this in the future. I appreciate you all. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving or gearing up for a exciting Christmas, and I hope your running is going well. I'm always one DM away if you ever need anything. And also give Elyse a follow on social media and stay up to date on all the incredible things she's doing, and purchase her new superhero muffin mix if you're looking for a good Christmas gift or stocking stuffer. Elyse is not paying me to say this. I just genuinely believe in the company, the product, and want to support good people. So support her if you feel inclined to do so, and enjoy my conversation with the one and only Elyse Kopecky. Ladies and gentlemen, across from me, and I think I emailed you this, Elyse, is a guest that I've wanted to have on for years and years because her cookbooks were deeply impactful to me. And so this is a conversation I've wanted to have for quite some time, as when you're impacted by someone or something, in this case, both for me, you always want to talk to the person behind it. So Elyse, a privilege and honor to speak with you today. How are you doing?
Thank you, Dominic. So excited to talk to you. It's not very often that I get to talk to the younger generation. I think I'm old enough to be your mom, which is crazy.
Well, it's an honor and privilege to sit here with you today. And I guess a question off the top of my head here is, obviously this conversation is a byproduct of you taking action on a dream you had to write a cookbook and to distill your story and a lot of your wisdom to everyone out there, from runners to moms to athletes all across the board. I'm curious, did you ever think that the books would have as much impact as they went on to have?
Never in my wildest imagination did I think that our cookbooks would make the New York Times bestseller list, not only one cookbook, but all three. When I originally set out to write the books with Shalane Flanagan, my co-author, we were like so wishy-washy. We were like, maybe we can self-publish it if no publishers want to publish our book. I knew I had a really important message to share, but I didn't know it would take off and turn into much more than just the cookbooks. It's a strong knit community. It's turned into products. It's turned into retreats, events, speaking engagements. There's been so many incredible opportunities outside of the cookbooks for Run Fast, Eat Slow.
I think originally, and again, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this because I'm 100% assuming here, but you have success in, it's kind of like the hot button topic, the hot button name. I'm sure you're getting stopped a lot, a ton of DMs, and then maybe things slow down a little bit, and then you do the second, and so on and so forth. I feel like you're probably removed enough that things have slowed down just enough where the cadence is probably a little bit more enjoyable. How do you feel? Again, I don't know every single time you go on a podcast, but I remember when the book first came out, it was like massive. It seemed like you were in the media everywhere. Is it nice now that you've had the success, but it can be like a little more sustainable, a little more calm, less go, 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 or is it still pretty go, 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 go?
I'm not doing as much media interviews, or no Good Morning America hasn't reached out to me in a while, but The rest is busier than ever before. We just launched our
Really?
first CPG brand. We launched Superhero Muffin Mix, and starting a food company from scratch is crazy busy. There's so much behind the scenes that I've had to learn in the past year as we went along. And then I'm launching two retreats today. So I'm leading retreats next year in the Galapagos, in Switzerland, in Bend, Oregon. So guiding retreats and putting together these amazing experiences for our running community. I do a lot of speaking engagements still. I was teaching online cooking classes for a while, and those really took off. But I've taken a pause from that to focus on launching our food brand. So no, there's no slowing down. I also have an 8 and 11-year-old, and their school had a fire last week, so they were home with me. So there's always something. As a working mom, I'm constantly feeling like I never have enough time in the day. I can barely squeeze in my hour run, but I do make that a priority.
I was going to ask you a question, and then you talked about your hour run in the last 5 seconds, so I want to ask you about that. How much value do you find in still practicing your craft in this way? I think a lot of people don't know you used to be a pretty successful runner yourself. And yeah, I'm curious, like with the craziness of business and mom and wife and all the other hats you wear that I don't know about, how valuable to you is that 1 hour? And do you listen to music? Do you listen to podcasts, or is it just you, your brain, and the trail?
My hour morning run is so important to me. I do it more for mental health and stress relief, and the fact that I just really truly enjoy it still. I don't know what it is about running, but I've been running since I was 12 years old, and it's not something I even think about. It's just part of my day. Has become a habit. It's not painful. It's easy for me to go out and run 5 or 6 miles. I'm not training for anything, so there's no pressure. I'm not doing speed workouts anymore, or I do sometimes do hill repeats to get ready for the retreats in the Alps, but it's just no pressure. It's my me time. It's relaxing, and I always have a better day when I get in my hour run. I don't run every single day. I do mix it up with, I love to cross train. I do yoga and strength, mountain biking, skiing in the winter, but I do try to at least have 45 minutes to an hour of movement in my day every day.
You were talking about launching this new foods brand. So share with my audience a little bit about it, where they can find it. I'm so excited to make mine. I was traveling last week, so I was unable to, but it's on my to-do list. But not even that, because to-do list makes it sound like I'm dreading it. I love baking and cooking. So I'm excited about it. So talk about that. And then alongside of that, I'm curious, how have your goals shifted throughout time? Like, for instance, 10 years ago, did you think you'd be launching a brand like this? Or do you feel like the older you get, the more success you have, the more people you reach, you have these business ideas, and then you start to act on them?
That's a great question. So, first, I'll tell you the story. I used to help Picky Bars with the product development. I developed their granola and oatmeal mixes. And when I worked with Jesse Thomas, the original founder of Picky Bars, I always told him, like, I swear I would never in my life start a food company. And then having young kids and becoming such a busy mom and seeing how much moms just have no time and athletes have no time, and how much I want to inspire people to get in the kitchen and bake, I felt compelled to launch our Superhero Muffin Mix, which is right here. And it's been quite the journey to get it onto shelves and our website launched, but the feedback has been incredible. It's completely different from anything else out there because it has no added sugar. It's made with freeze-dried fruits and vegetables, dehydrated fruits and vegetables, and sweetened with date powder. So it's really easy to bake, but it has the same nutrient density of the recipe that we've become most famous for from the cookbooks, which is superhero muffins. And yeah, I've been learning as we go. If I know a year ago when we first started product testing, if I had known as much as I do know now about the grocery store world, I probably would have never started this company. But now that we're in it, I'm getting amazing feedback, and people are realizing that they can make superhero muffins in 5 minutes prep time. I'm so excited, and we have so many ideas coming up in 2026. We're going to be launching new products and new baking mixes, but the whole premise is we want people to still get in the kitchen and bake from scratch. using our mix, because you're adding so much more nutrition by adding eggs and yogurt and butter to the mix than you would get from anything store-bought like an energy bar. And I think a lot of people have maxed out on protein bars and are tired of them. So this is something really fresh that feels fresh and homemade, but doesn't take a lot of time.
And I think you'd agree with me here. No matter how much marketing is done, it seems on the market, just very, very few of those protein bars are actually good for you. And it'll take you 5 minutes to read through the laundry list of ingredients. And it doesn't feel real or human food. Whereas you have a superhero muffin and it's like, this tastes nutritious. Every time I would bake them, and they're one of my favorite things to bake growing up. Like, you make a batch on Sunday and then you have them throughout the week. And it was always like good enough that it tasted like a sweet treat, but nutritious enough that you didn't feel like you were just having like a candy bar.
Yes, I always try to teach people that it's more important to look at the ingredient list on what you're consuming than the nutrition panel. Like the calorie counts and carbs and macros, like don't get obsessed about that, but just look at the ingredient list and make sure you're filling up mostly. I don't try to push eating perfectly, but mostly on wholesome, nutrient-dense foods. It's so important as an athlete for several reasons, but a big one is a lot of the packaged products pushed at runners can be really disruptive to your gut health. And as an athlete, you want to really enhance your digestion so that you're absorbing nutrients properly, and so that you feel good when you're working out and running, and don't get the dreaded side stitch or other problems that a lot of runners experience because of the protein powders and bars and gels and sugary drink mixes. Those can really wreak havoc on your digestion.
You mentioned that superhero muffins kind of became the most popular item and recipe from the cookbooks. I'm curious, you talk to like artists and you see it in interviews, and people will ask them about their hit song that made them go viral or made them who they are today. And they'll say, oh, did you know when you were writing that this song would make you everything you are? For you and Shalane, did you know when you were making these cookbooks that superhero muffins would be the thing, or did you guess something else?
No, I had no idea that I would become known as the muffin lady, the muffin mom. Everywhere I go, like I get stopped and people want to tell me like, oh, I have just baked a batch of your superhero muffins, or even at the airport, people stop me and the first thing they say is always something about superhero muffins. They don't mention run fast, eat slow. And a lot of amazing stories from women who have, run their fastest PR in the marathon and they ate a superhero muffin before, or young athletes who used to think they couldn't eat anything before heading out for a run because their digestion was sensitive. And now they found out like giving up the cream cheese bagel and having a superhero muffin instead. So there's been so many great stories. I never created superhero muffins as something that would be shared and go viral. I just came up with a cute, catchy name for a breakfast recipe that I loved. And in our first cookbook, there's one superhero muffin recipe. Our second cookbook has 3 superhero muffin recipes. And our third cookbook, I think, has like 26 superhero muffin recipes. So you can still cook them from scratch. I love the recipes in Rise and Run. So you can still cook them from scratch, but they do take a lot of time because you're grating fruits and veggies. So the mixes save you a ton of time, and people are burnt out on grating carrots and grating apples. So I'm happy about having this mix available now.
When you were talking earlier about developing this brand and all the intricacies, and how if you knew how much work you'd have to put in and how hard it is to get into stores, all that stuff, you may have not started it. And it made me think of the question, like, you wrote these 3 cookbooks. You have more to your life than I can possibly understand, so I want to try to lay it out. What does your interior process look like? Like, how many people are you connecting with on a daily basis? How many emails do you have? Like, what's your kind of like ecosystem to make sure that all the buckets are filled and you're taking care of all the responsibilities you need to be successful across, social media, the books, the now food brand, the future developments, like all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I've definitely dropped the ball on social media a lot over the years. I go dark for months because it's so time consuming, and it's the first, once we are really rolling with superhero muffins, I'd love to hire help because one, I'm getting outdated in age for keeping up with the latest changes. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on any platform except Instagram just because I just don't have time. I get a lot of DMs on Instagram. I probably don't have time to reply to. I do try to reply as much as possible, but it's really hard to keep up with everything. Emails, I prioritize emails over like Instagram DMs. So if you want to reach me, send me an email. But yeah, it's really a challenge to do it all. I don't have we hire consultants here and there to get this food brand launched, but other than myself, it's just my husband and I behind the scenes. We don't have any other full-time help. And with the cookbooks too, I guess one of the things I'm most proud of is I did all the marketing myself. Luckily, I had the background of working in marketing at Nike for 10 years before I started Run Fast, Eat Slow. So I had a good overview of sports marketing and advertising and digital marketing from, like, I call it my MBA at Nike. Like the 10 years of working at Nike was like a paid MBA that helped me launch Run Fast, Eat Slow and reach a lot more people than we ever expected.
So you ran collegiately, competitively at UNC. And I'm curious for you to take the listener kind of into the journey from, you said you started running at the age of 12, ultimately run at the D1 level at a really prestigious university, something very, very few people are able to do. You land a dream job in marketing at Nike for 10 years, then you pivot. When you look back at your life, is it crazy to see all the different chapters? And can you take the listener who's new to you through some of the journey and development to get to the point and success that you've had today?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that I've had so many different chapters, but when I take a bigger picture look at it, like it all makes sense. Like people are like, how do you go from working in digital marketing at Nike to writing a cookbook? Like there's so much crossover in what I learned. But yeah, I think I started running as a young teen all through middle school and high school. I was in middle school, I was beating all the boys, so they bumped me up to run with the varsity girls. And I was kind of an early star, but then I went off to college and I discovered like real training. I think in high school I got by with just very minimal training and natural talent, but then college it was like hard training, high mileage, and it completely broke me down. I suffered from so many injuries due to not having any knowledge on nutrition. If I had known what I know now and what I preach back when I was in college, I think it would have prevented all the stress fractures that I suffered from and the other health issues that I suffered from in college, and I would have run a lot better. But I'm kind of glad that I totally bonked in college. I failed. I got injured year after year. I eventually quit running my junior year to study abroad, and I got a job with UNC sports marketing as an intern, and that is what gave me so many new opportunities. And I realized there was the business side of running, that I loved the sport, but I couldn't run and I was injured. So finding like an opportunity to work for UNC sports marketing and work with the basketball team, which was incredible, opened the doors for me to go to Nike and start a career there. And I'm so thankful that my lowest point in college has become like the highest point in my career, of like hitting rock bottom with running, but discovering another passion, and that I was better using my brains than my body as my career. So really feel grateful that I graduated from UNC Chapel Hill and moved west to Portland to work for Nike. And then that has led to, eventually I worked abroad in Amsterdam and Switzerland for Nike. And my time in Europe is when my eyes opened to a different culinary world, and that food could be both indulgent and nourishing at the same time. And cooking, I learned to cook I didn't cook at all when I was young in my 20s. I learned to cook when I was in Europe, and then got the chance to move back to the US, and decided before I jumped into my next career that I was going to take 6 months off and go to culinary school in New York City, which was totally crazy. I don't know what I was thinking. It was very stressful. But when I moved back to Portland, I knew I wanted to make a career change and use what I had learned in culinary school. So,
One of my favorite parts of the books is that you don't just share recipes, but you really teach teach the importance of cooking, and teach like the why behind it and how crucial it is for athletes. So I guess speaking here to the athletes, as someone who didn't really learn to cook at a high level until after your kind of competitive running was over, what is the value in learning how to cook? And also, just for an athlete out there, maybe break it down of how it's maybe not as complex. Like we're talking about culinary school and all that, and learning how to cook eggs and superhero muffins and simple dishes does not have to be more complex than it sounds.
Yes, I wrote Run Fast, Cook Fast, Eat Slow to help athletes who have minimal time and minimal equipment to discover easy recipes. And like you don't have to do these ridiculous, like New York Times newspaper recipes that have all these strange ingredients that you've never heard of. Like all of our ingredients are really approachable in our recipes. But as someone who during college lived off of like microwave meals and frozen veggie burgers and like plain pasta with jarred marinara sauce and wasn't eating enough healthy fat and healthy protein and good complex carbs, like I want people to be inspired to cook. So one, they can enjoy it and have fun with it. And it's like one of the most basic things of like survival. Like everyone should know how to cook. It's so important to your long-term health and wellness. And I think there's so much more information out there now about how important it is. There's what I was teaching people 10 years ago about using healthy fats to cook and don't be afraid of butter and cook with olive oil has now become more mainstream. Like everyone is into the good healthy fats and making food that's richer. But as someone who grew up in the 80s, like it was all low fat everything. But when you start cooking from scratch, you're using really good quality fats, and fat is so important for flavor. And so I want to teach people that healthy food doesn't have to be bland and boring, but it can be indulgent and delicious at the same time as being really nutrient dense. But that's only going to happen if you get in your kitchen and cook.
You make an excellent point about like the butter. I remember specifically butter because I do remember I was so young when I first read the book, but that was the first time I feel like I had ever considered butter not to be like on the unhealthier side. And I think I remember showing the book to my mom and being like, "Oh, you got to read this," because at the time it was so unorthodox, and it is funny now on Instagram. It's like healthy fats, grass-fed butter, XYZ, XYZ. But at the time it was a lot more unorthodox. I gotta say, best. I love superhero muffins, but the best recipe, I forget which book it is, but this time of year specifically, superfood soup, cannot beat it. And it's so simple. You make a big batch, you have it throughout the week.
Have you tried the version of our superfood soup that's made with ground turkey? It's the only one I make now. Like a lot of the recipes in the cookbook have evolved. So I posted it like on Instagram a while ago. And if you search for like, I think it's called coconut curry, like turkey soup now instead of superfood soup. Anyways, It's my favorite version, but Women's Running Magazine posted it a while ago, so you can still find it out there. A lot of the recipes in the cookbook have evolved over the years, and I've like changed them slightly to be even better. So I probably should do a revised edition of the cookbook. But I'm very curious, how old were you when you first discovered our cookbooks?
Oh gosh, I think we were briefly emailing about this, but I think sixth grade. I just remember knowing that the book was being released and then going to my library. We were like big library goers as kids. I would always get out the newest Runner's World magazine, Sports Illustrated for kids, and then like I loved cookbooks. I just always found as a kid it was really fun to sit and just like flip through and look at the food, even though I wasn't cooking it. But I feel like your cookbooks were at an age where I was able to like digest the information, no pun intended, as well as actually like try some of the recipes. So I do remember cooking the muffins with my mom. And I think that's one of the beautiful things. Like if you're listening in your high school or younger, or even college, because it's the time of the year where you go back for the holidays, like cooking can be so communal. And I know in the cookbooks, like there are pictures of you and your kids cooking. And part of what makes cooking beautiful is doing it with someone. And it's funny, I introduced my girlfriend to superfood soup not too long ago. And I don't know if we did the turkey version, but I added turkey because I was like, you can totally add turkey. So we just followed the recipe, and then I just like in a separate pan cooked turkey and then just put it in after. So kind of an aside, but yeah, at that age or just any age, like if you're listening and getting into cooking, I think one of the best things you can do is do it with other people because it's so fun.
Yeah.
Throw on some good music, light a candle.
That's so crazy to me that you were like around sixth grade because my daughter's going into sixth grade next year.
Oh, wow.
Totally agree on the cooking together, and also get yourself a dishwasher. My husband is a godsend. He does all the dishes. I make literally the biggest mess every day. And here I'm testing our next product. So I can make like 14 batches in one day, and he comes home and like walks in, the kitchen is just destroyed. Like you can't see the other side of me now, but I'm getting ready after I get off this interview to test more batches. and like he'll make comments, but he never complains. He takes his dishwashing job seriously. But also, my kids, one thing I've heard about the superhero muffin mix is that kids are loving baking them because it is so easy to follow the directions on the back of the bag. And my 11-year-old baked a batch for her dance team bake sale this weekend. My 8-year-old can do it. I haven't tested my husband yet if he can do it, but that's going to be my next reel, is getting my husband to see if he can show that it's capable, that guys can do it too.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I also think something I appreciate about the cookbooks is a lot of cookbooks, it's just the recipes, but you balance sort of the science and the principles mixed in with the recipes themselves. Can you break that down for the listener? And without giving away all of it, because if someone doesn't have the cookbook, I encourage them to buy. We're not giving away all the trade secrets on the podcast here, but some of the guiding principles for you that have been helpful in your nutrition journey.
Yeah, one of the things I'm most proud of about our cookbooks is the one that I wrote 11 years ago when my daughter was born, Run Fast, Eat Slow, the original cookbook. I've gone back and read the early chapters, and the nutrition advice that I wrote 11 years ago is still 100% accurate and on point today. And I think that's not true for a lot of diet trendy wellness athlete nutrition books. Like, nutrition trends come and go, like people obsess over protein to like an unhealthy amount, or obsess over like low carb, or when I was young it was low fat, everything. But because we took such a holistic approach to nutrition, everything I wrote about 11 years ago is still applicable to today and can still help athletes today. So that's something I'm most proud of. But the premise is, I wanted to give a lot of science behind like micronutrients and how important those are, because people are so obsessed in our culture about macronutrients, but they forget about all the vitamins and minerals and like the amazing phytonutrients and all the amazing other things that foods do for our body, and letting people forget about counting calories, because that's not important or relevant, because for lots of reasons, calorie counting can be harmful. One, you lose touch with listening to your body's hunger signals. And two, you end up eating a lot more packaged foods when you're counting calories because the information is on there. And three, just like the mindset, like there's no reason for obsessive math in the kitchen. It takes the fun out of like cooking and eating being enjoyable as it should be. So yeah, I think that's important, but still giving people enough information to be like excited, like, oh my gosh, I'm eating this sweet potato and it has all these amazing micronutrients. It also has good complex carbs that are easy to digest, and I'm going to feel great on my run tomorrow morning. So like, I want to give people enough information to inspire them, but without bogging them down with like getting out a calculator and calculating their daily intake of whatever.
I was going to ask you, because you were talking about, the batch testing and a lot of the recipes, like how did you decide what recipes went in the books? How elaborate was that process? Did you have a team helping you? And take me through also some of the even like logistical things, like the pictures, right? So high quality. I'm sure you hired a team. Like, are you cooking that food? Is someone else cooking that food? I'm always curious about this.
Yeah, the food photos, my food never looks as beautiful as the food photography in the cookbook, so don't expect yours to look that way either. We had a professional food stylist and a food photographer. That's one of the biggest expenses of creating a cookbook, is having incredible photography. But yeah, as far as the recipes, I would start off with like a long list of, 150, 175 recipes for each book. And then some recipes would get the chopping block, literally like never make it into the cookbook because they just weren't turning out. We would go through 10 or 12 batches and they wouldn't turn out good. I had an amazing assistant who would help me in the kitchen, but I created all the recipes myself, and some of them, would just do them one or two times and like nail it. And then the other ones would take lots of rounds of testing and lots of dishwashing to get there. But yeah, there's a lot behind the scenes with a cookbook. Other than the photography, you have like graphic design and page layout. A lot of that our publisher took on, but I did all the editing myself and all the recipe testing. We did something really fun for all three cookbooks where we had a team of just anyone who wanted to volunteer test our recipes. We actually got, for the first cookbook, I think we had like 600 emails for like 12 spots to be like a volunteer recipe tester.
Wow.
So that was really cool because the recipes were tested by people who were not skilled cooks, just like everyday runners that heard about our book launching and wanted to be involved. So for each book, we had like a team of volunteer recipe testers that, made a big difference. We would definitely listen to their feedback and tweak the recipes as needed. It's always hard with recipes. Everyone's taste buds are slightly different. So like someone who's used to like drinking sugary drinks, our recipes are not going to taste very sweet to them, or someone who's used to eating like a lot of packaged pretzels and salty chips and things like might not think it's salty enough. I like to cook with a lot of good fat and a lot of good salt and add a lot of flavor. But it's always hard to compete with Cheetos and Doritos.
That's hilarious. I feel like two stigmas I'd love for you to take down in regards to cooking. I feel like one, men, and then two, like younger athletes. So just like high schoolers. I feel like it's funny because like your average high school student, they have their 3 meals a day. It's pretty simple. You don't have to think too much about nutrition. But if you're an athlete, you need to be eating more. You need to be a little bit more aware of that you're eating enough. All the sort of elaborate things. You get hungry at 9:30 p.m. unlike a lot of people, like all these sort of developments. And I think with that, there's maybe a little bit more of a expectation, depending on family dynamics, that, okay, you need to prepare your food if you want to eat at 9 p.m. Like my mom would always say, kitchen's closed. I'd have to beg her to reopen the kitchen.
I know.
Because she knew she would have to do the dishes. Because I wasn't as good as your husband as a 14-year-old in high school. So anyways, if you could tackle the stigma of like men cooking, and then high schoolers and the importance for anyone to cook, but specifically why these groups should learn how to cook.
Yeah, so I would love to reach more young male athletes to inspire them to get in the kitchen and cook. And I think my best technique to reach them would be telling them, if you want to get the girl, you got to learn to cook, because there's nothing better than like a man that knows how to prepare a delicious meal. So maybe that will inspire them to learn at a young age, because it's definitely a skill set that is missing. But when I hear that a friend has like a husband that cooks, I'm like, wow, that's incredible. And my husband has a couple specialties that he does. He's French, so he does his fondue and crepes really well, but I don't let him near the grill. He burns everything. I just want to inspire young people to cook, because it's a skill set that you'll have for your entire life. It's a skill that you can share with your partner. It's a skill that you can share with your kids. I have had some dads who have emailed me incredible stories of like getting our cookbook and learning to cook for their family for the first time, and how it's so meaningful for them to share that with their children. And then in terms of like high school kids and young athletes, we're hungry all the time. So if you can learn to like make big batches of really simple things, like my go-to is like bowls. So I'll make a big batch of like rice or quinoa, and a big batch of protein, like a simple shredded chicken, and like a delicious sauce. If you can do that, like I think high school kids, athletes, their moms are always like, eat more broccoli, eat more vegetables. But these kids are just so hungry from growing and from doing sports and being active all day, that they need like the really rich, nutrient dense, hearty meals that maybe their mom's not cooking for them. So if they can figure out how to do a few basic things like superhero muffins or waffles, or bowls, hearty bowls with a delicious sauce themselves, and they can like honestly teach their moms a few things too. If young athletes, high school kids, have moms or dads that are my age, like they probably grew up with kind of a fear of fat, so the high school kid could teach their mom to like not stress about butter and not stress about these sauces that have a lot of fat, but instead fill up on that, because that way you're not going to be starving at 10 o'clock at night when you're about to go to bed, and you'll sleep better and feel better energy the next day. I do let my kids are growing and have super high metabolism, and we usually eat dinner pretty early, like at 6 p.m. So when we're reading books at night at 9 o'clock, they always get a bedtime snack. But I do tell them the same thing, that the kitchen's closed to cooking, so their choices are whole milk yogurt or whole milk and fruit. And that's like, I've already like made them custom dinners and like cater to everyone's taste buds. So at 9 o'clock at night, it's like you get these and cheese. So like basically a form of dairy, which is like really calorie dense. So it's going to help them stay full through the night, and then fresh fruit before bed. But yeah.
I'm so hungry after all. You just described so many food groups and so many different things.
Yeah, really big on
Hungry
like
for lunch.
cooking big batches and like freeze it if you're cooking for just yourself, or have meals like cook. My mantra for busy athletes is cook once, eat twice. But also, if you're a single guy who's cooking just for just yourself, it could be like cook once, eat 4 times. So like you're making enough for multiple lunches. And I love having I'm not a sandwich person. And so I love having like a hot lunch. And so leftovers are always like I'm reheating this time of year. I make like a big batch of soup on Sundays, a hearty soup, and like reheat that for lunches during the week because I don't have a lot of time during the workday.
I'll just say it straight up. I'm lazy and I need to not be. And maybe this is a New Year's resolution for me because I think, and I want you to speak into this, like if you meal prep right, your week is set up for you. And I think something I struggle with is, again, I'm not like a high level athlete anymore. No, not that I was, but in high school I was really trying to be elite. So I think a lot of times when I get really busy and it's like I have to run on a podcast or something, like the first thing to go will be food. That is unacceptable, not healthy, not good for me, and won't good.
Same
Good
for
me in the
me.
long run.
Same for me.
Yeah, so you get it. So I guess I'm curious to ask you because I think it's the advice I need to hear. But I also think for athletes, how important is taking 30 minutes or an hour on the weekend to meal prep and to, as you said, going off of what you said, make things that can be multiple meals throughout the week. Because if you make a protein and a base and you roast some Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes, like that's multiple meals, multiple different combinations. And instead of having every day to cook lunch and it takes you 45 minutes, you can have, 4 of your lunches already ready.
Yeah, totally. I eat so much better. My whole family eats better when I set aside just 2 hours on Sunday afternoon to meal prep. I crank up some music, make a tea, get my kids out of the kitchen. I really enjoy that time. If you're cooking at 5:30 p.m. and everyone's starving, it's not fun to cook. Or if you're trying to like jump on a podcast interview at noon and you haven't had lunch yet and you need to just eat like a quick deli meat sandwich, like totally get it. But yeah, just having that prepped saves a ton of time. And also it's just more enjoyable. Like it feels really meditative to be like multitasking in the kitchen and be like, have a batch of muffins in the oven and I'm roasting like a nut mix or a granola and I'm making like energy bites and I've got like a soup simmering and my Instant Pot is cooking like black beans or rice or a protein like shredded chicken. We do a big batch of easy shredded chicken every week. Like it feels fun. It's like, oh, I'm like in a real restaurant kitchen hustling and it feels good and you're in the zone. It's like running. It's like you're not thinking about anything else, which I love because I have a very busy mind. And so when I'm in the zone with cooking or I'm out running, it like quiets my mind. So it can be something really enjoyable, especially if you can get your kids out of the kitchen and you're not cooking when everyone's hangry.
What are the top 3 recipes you think the guys out there should try to cook? Listening today, let's challenge them, and I'll sweeten the pot a little bit. Have your muffins come out yet?
Yes, this is out.
Okay, so let's pick. I'll personally pick. If you cook one of the recipes that Elyse shares, one of the 3 recipes, and you DM me photo evidence, I will pick 3 lucky winners, and I will buy them superhero muffins. So we got to sweeten the pot. We'll
That's
incentivize
amazing,
people.
Dominic. That's awesome. I love the challenge. Okay, so any of the Power Bowl recipes in Run Fast, Cook Fast, Eat Slow, there's lots of different variations and you can make your own variation of it, but like some kind of wholesome bowl that's got balanced nutrition. So you've got like a rice or quinoa, a protein, a sauce, a veggie. That's an amazing place to start. So you find our Power Bowl recipes and sauces in Run Fast, Cook Fast, Eat Slow. Make a batch of superhero muffins from scratch from Rise and Run. And I highly recommend for athletes who are training and want something really unique, one of the savory protein muffin recipes. So we have like a everything bagel superhero muffin recipe. We have a sweet potato kale superhero muffin recipe, and that's different from the mix. We haven't launched savory yet, but that's definitely a goal of mine down the road. But it's something really unique. It's not at all like those like dense egg bites that are not very fun to eat. So that's a unique one to try from Rise and Run. And then I'm big on this time of year just doing like a big hearty soup. So either the superfood soup that you love and adding ground turkey, because I think that added protein is great to have for athletes, or finding the turkey coconut curry soup. You don't even have to have the cookbook to find the recipe. Just Google my name and Google turkey coconut curry soup, and that recipe will pop up. So you don't need the cookbook to jump in on this challenge.
I love it. I love it. Well, you guys better get cooking if you want to be rewarded. Elyse, I'm curious. I think something that a lot of athletes think is they'll go on Twitter or Instagram or look up podcasts, and they're so fixated on what's the next training method I need to do, or what's the one deadlift type of exercise in the gym that's going to make me cut off 5 seconds in the mile because I want to qualify for New Balance Outdoor Nationals. And I would argue, and I think you'd agree with me, that a lot of times for a lot of athletes, it's the little things in the dark that keep them away from being the athlete that they can be. And I'm sure many times you look back with all the knowledge you have and you're probably like, oh, I wish I could talk to myself in college. Probably would have been pretty transformational. So for the athletes out there, can you speak to them on how transformational nutrition is, not just athletically, but also extends to your lifestyle? So for men, it could be you have super low testosterone, and eating enough and eating healthy can fix that. With so many female athletes, they don't get their period regularly because they're not eating enough, or they get stress fractures because of it. Can you speak to how food is truly healing, and how, if you're an athlete, focusing on it can truly be the difference maker between being the athlete you are and being the athlete you can be?
Definitely. Yeah. Learning to cook and jumping in the kitchen and spending time cooking is the single greatest thing you can do for your athleticism now, but also your longevity and long-term health. And it's just a blink of the eye, and you're going from that 20-year-old college student to the mid 40 mom like me, which I can't believe. I still feel like I'm in my 20s sometimes, but it's going to change your life. Cooking real food that you love, make sure it's something you enjoy and tastes delicious, is going to improve your energy. It's going to improve your sleep. A lot of like the wellness, there's all these wellness hacks that are like, do this to improve your sleep, do this to improve your muscle mass, do this to improve your mental health state. But if you honestly, if you're not cooking real food from scratch and eating nutrient dense foods, you're not going to be able to improve any of the other hacks. So like, if you're not eating right, your sleep is going to suffer. If you're not eating right, your training is going to suffer. If you're not eating right, you're going to develop all kinds of different ailments, whether it's digestive stress, or inflammation, or bone density issue. A lot of young women suffer from low bone density due to not getting their periods, which is what I suffered from in high school and college. It's called athletic amenorrhea. And men too. Like, I think there's so much focus on women having a healthier mindset around food and avoiding disordered eating habits, but I am envisioning that disordered eating habits are just as common and harmful in young male athletes. So not being afraid, embrace food, embrace delicious eating, and don't get obsessive about any of these weird Instagram diet hacks.
It's probably from someone claiming to be nutritionist, which I learned anyone can call themselves a nutritionist because it's not a protected label. So look for RD, which is registered dietitian.
Yeah.
Learn that hack, and I think it's beneficial.
Well, actually, RDs can be tricky because
Really?
they're trying to hit. A lot of RDs are like just so focused on hitting certain macros that they'll tell you to go drink like some kind of Ensure protein drink that has like 100 ingredients and is not ideal. But I've had some bad experiences with RDs over the year. There are some really great ones out there. You want to find one that is an RD that also knows how to cook.
What would be, for people out there, because most people are on social media, unfortunately, as I think it has probably more net negatives than net positives, what are the things people should keep their eyes out for from a positive and from a negative perspective when they're consuming information? And let's just state the record, you shouldn't be looking for your information on any social media platform. But if you are, what would you say?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many like reels on Instagram that are designed just to capture attention, that have really dramatic headlines that like kale is poisonous, or rice is going to kill you because of arsenic, or like everything you're eating has microplastics in it. And like, it just is fear-based, because fear is what gets clicks. So avoid anything that's like those dramatic. While some might be science-backed, if you're eating like a lot of diversity in your diet and not eating like the same thing every day, I don't think you need to stress about like, yeah, of course, if you're like drinking a kale smoothie every single day, you might be overdoing it, but like not get bogged down in these like fear-based claims that are just designed to get clicks. Try to avoid those. Unfortunately, my Instagram feed is overwhelmed with those because I click on them just because I'm like, oh gosh, what are they, what are they talking about now? So it can be really like overwhelming. Like, wow, this really makes eating anything feel dangerous. Avoid those, and then, yeah, follow people who are, in it for the long game. Like I've been talking about food and nutrition for over 10 years, and find chefs and cookbook authors and nutritionists that are reputable, that likely have written a book or have more out there than just Instagram reels. Like sometimes it's not the person with the a million followers that has the best information, but it could be someone with a really small audience, but they're really passionate about their nutrition, what they're doing in the world of nutrition or culinary.
Elyse, two final serious questions for you, wrapping this one up. First one for you, two-parted. What do you feel like is the most fulfilling part of this all? And then looking ahead, what is something you're most excited about in the future?
Great questions. The most fulfilling part of my job is honestly seeing my kids do something that I am 100% passionate about, that I wake up every morning at 5 a.m. without an alarm because I'm so excited to do the work that I do. And especially raising my daughter, who's 11 now, she went from being like a super shy kid to this like confident kid because she's come to a lot of my speaking engagements. She's now like a kid that will get up on stage and speak in front of a microphone because she's watched me. So just inspiring my kids is the number one most important thing about my work. And the great thing about running our own family business, our own food company, is the kids have followed it every step of the way. So I see how much they're becoming like little entrepreneurs and how their brain is like, giving us feedback on packaging design, and they're coming to events with us and helping us hand out muffins. So that's been really rewarding this past year. And then, sorry, what was the other part?
Yeah, just looking into the future. So that was like kind of past-based, future-based. What are you most looking forward to in the future, coming months, years, whatever the horizon is?
Well, I guess honestly, like we have like poured our life savings into starting this business. So it'd be nice to be on the other side of it. That there's a lot of upfront costs. Like packaging design and printing our first production run alone was $30,000. So my husband and I are pretty much not paying ourselves for the next 2 years. It would be nice to, to be honest, be on the other side of that where we can like not worry, like, is this going to really make an impact on people's lives and be a successful company that we can leave like a legacy for our kids. Like maybe it becomes a family business that one of our kids takes over someday. So we're still in the stress phase of like launch. We only launched 45 days ago, but so far like sales are crazy higher than we expected, and it's doing really well. So I'm excited to be on the other side of that.
Well, if I've learned one thing from our conversation and from your 3 books, it's you seem to have more success than you yourself could ever imagine. So I'll remember me when you sell it for, a couple $1 billion one day. Other question for you, serious question. I always do this with all my guests. What's the final takeaway message you have for the audience? Can be anything, something from this conversation, something outside of it. Just a final piece of wisdom as they close out this episode.
My final piece of wisdom is sometimes if you're in like a period of failure or what you're perceiving as not success, you'll look back on that failure years from now and it could become your biggest success. So for me, it was all the injuries in college that led to me having to quit the team, was the lowest point of my life. And that is what became my career and drives my passion to this day. So don't overlook the failures. They're an important part of growing, and you might not realize it until you're in your 40s, but everything that happens will make sense when you're older.
I love it. And final question for you. And I promise, I don't know why, Elyse, but before I started the podcast, a lot of podcasts, they have like rapid fire questions or final questions. And I was like, I just want to pick one. And I don't know where I got this question, but I've had it for years. And you're one of the people I'm most excited to ask this question. I don't know why I picked this question. But the question is, if you had Gordon Ramsay coming over to your house for dinner, what would you choose to make for him?
Oh, gosh. Uh, a superhero muffin cake. No, I don't know. That's a, you know what? I don't cook any fancy food, so I'd be really nervous because I cook really approachable weeknight dinner food. I honestly don't know how to cook anything super fancy. I hate hosting like big family Christmas dinners or Thanksgiving dinners. In fact, I typically try to get my family to fly home on Thanksgiving Day just so I can get out of like cooking like the big giant turkey. So I guess I would, just make my go-to for him, which is we love doing like taco style bowls. So rice bowls with some spicy ground beef and black beans. Like I make a homemade black bean dish topped with guacamole and cheese and like any assortment of toppings that you can't beat, loaded with like lots of colorful seasonal veggies, but just comfort food, that's easy and approachable. I don't think I could invite him over for dinner though, probably.
Did you know he's a runner? He's run like 10 marathons.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah,
No.
and I
Yeah, see,
don't know if I found that out after or before I started asking the question, but that's proof I've been a foodie from day one, at least.
that's amazing. I'm
Yeah.
so happy that you've known about our cookbooks ever since you were in middle school. That's incredible and makes me feel really old on one hand, but also it's such an honor to connect with you and meet someone who's been following my journey through such a big growth period of your life too. And congrats to you on such young success. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring.
Likewise. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And to go back, thank you for the impact you've had on my life. And I also know this book has had immense impact on so many people's lives. Even one of my mentors who Shalane would definitely know, Alex Osberg, who was the first ever podcast guest and a mentor to me before the
Awesome.
podcast happened. He ran for Stanford and then actually went on to run for UNC when Milt went from Stanford to UNC. He took Alex with him, and he gave a presentation at like a running clinic, and it was like 10 things my high school self I would have told my high school self or something. And he created a book list off of it, and I believe the books were on that. And so we've had immense conversations, Alex and I, back and forth about how this would be one of the first books we would give any runner trying to get good because of how like information packed it is, but also applicable with so many easy to make recipes. And yeah, food and sleep are the two things every single human like does every single day. It's what connects us, and the way that you've distilled this subject into 3 beautiful works of art and now a brand off of it is remarkable. And I know 6th grade Dominic would be utterly confused as to how he's sitting on the other side from you. So keep crushing it. Can't wait to continue to follow your continued success. And thanks for this gift of a conversation today.
Awesome. It's been so much fun to talk to you. Thanks a lot, Dominic, for having me on your show.